Welcome, Keith.
Welcome, Chris.
Big weekend, beautiful weather. Couldn't have asked for anything more weather-wise, and we had two crackerjack games.
Switch your mobile phone off, Chris. We had two crackerjack games. I was just going to reach for my phone to switch it off, and I don't know where it is. But yeah, no, crackerjack games. Margins were quite substantial at the end in both. But it was finals footy, and pretty tough footy, and it certainly goes up a notch once you hit September.
Yeah, the intensity in Saturday's match was great, and the heat took its toll as well.
Yeah, and I think just Maui surface, which is still not fully settled, made it fairly hard to run as they ran out their games, and I think if we have a look at all the results from all the grades down, one side really faded a fair bit in each of those games.
Yeah, and look, the ball was bouncing very high at times. A lot of the players misjudged the bounces, but look, everything that Drew and tried on Saturday came off. Everything that Sale tried didn't come off. And there was a lot of pressure from both sides, and in the end the Drew and Hawks have had a comfortable win, and they're into the second semi against Traralgon on this Saturday.
I think that's a bit simplistic interpretation of it. Everything Drew and tried came off, and what Sale tried didn't.
I'm a simplistic person too.
Yeah, I just thought Sale were not there for some reason, and it really concerns me. They had they weren't in the hunt the previous week against Traralgon, and virtually didn't even show up on Saturday. It was a really disappointing effort, I thought, by Sale. Yes, Drew was very good, but something just didn't look right there at Sale for me.
Yeah, what I noticed, as I said, the Drew and Blakes were, as you say, they were fully intent, and I suppose it's a bit like the Geelong Collingwood game the night before. One team, everything they did, they pressured right, they did all the right things that you're supposed to do in footy, and the result is a good win. But anyway, we now come into the Sunday. We had Maffra and Leongatha at Sale. Leongatha actually came out and kicked the first 3 or 4 goals, and it was a case of, gee, they're going to go all right here. And then all of a sudden Maffra changed gears and came back at it very hard. And then in the end they ended up running away with a fairly comfortable win themselves.
Yeah, I didn't see the game, but I think what's interesting with Maffra, one, they're a pretty proud club and they're a pretty good club, and obviously still a very good side. But just looking at what's happened with them the last half of the season, there's a couple of blokes who have come from nowhere, like the ruckman Owen Booth, who was really playing good football. Just sort of disappeared for 18 months and has turned up the last half of this season. It's now become an important part of it. Same as Jack Tatterson. He's running around in the seconds earlier in the year. Probably where's his football at? He's come back brilliantly in the second half of the year. Probably got him into his finals with that massive effort against Traralgon. Yeah. He kicked 11 goals and 7 in the last quarter or something to snatch a victory. So there've been a couple of sort of late season bonuses for Maffra, and I was very pleased to see Dan Stubb got 4 goals on Sunday. Obviously it's not as easy as it used to be for him, but he can play football and he still knows what goes on. And,
he was on and off the ground a few times, Stubbsy, too.
Yeah, and he's kicked 4 goals, which is very important.
He took some good, strong marks, and there were 2 other little fellas there that their names will put a bit of fear into people. They played fantastic second halves. Benny Coleman and Gary Jones, and they were very good in the second half.
Yeah, well, Benny's had hamstring injury in the second half of the year. Gary just keeps going along.
Just very good players. Anyway, we'll do the second semi first.
Well, whatever you like. You're the
Okay,
boss,
Saturday.
General manager of the world, somebody from Morwell tells me.
Yeah, not quite. Saturday we have Mafra hosting Tarralgon and Druin.
Yeah, well, this is a great clash. I think Tarralgon will be very happy having sat back last weekend and watch their two combatants go at it, Druin and Sale, in a hard game, and both of them came out a bit hurt, and you'd think Tarralgon go in favourites, but Druin are really finishing off the season well. Like, it was a superb performance against Sale.
Yeah.
No question about that. They're finishing it off extremely well. Even if they have a couple of changes this week, I think they've shown enough through the year that they're going to be very viable. I don't know, Tarralgon will go in favourites, but it's one of those games you never know. Again.
Yeah, I think, look, Tarralgon's a different kettle of fish, and I'm going to go for Tarralgon. I believe, they finished on top of the ladder for a reason. Obviously because they're a very good side. They've had the week off. Any niggly injuries they would have had, they would have all come up. And Josh Jennings, an experienced player, an experienced coach, I believe that he'll have them well tuned. And it's a half-hour trip out to Mafra, and I reckon the Tarralgon boys will all be primed to have another week's rest. So that's how I see it, anyway.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think Druin are very good. They're playing very well. I mean, their team system's going well, and the midfield is really superb. And the midfield's not just 3 or 4 players. There's a lot of depth there. There's plenty up forward. The back line is working well as a unit. The return of McCallum in the ruck is a big bonus. I'll go with my heart and say Druin on this.
Okay, no, that's all right. I expect it to be a fantastic game of footy. But as I said, at this stage, I just think that Tarralgon, personally, just a little bit in front. Anyway, Sunday, we go to Tarralgon to watch, it's a promoter's dream, Sale playing Mafra. If we had been able to plan this, we couldn't have done it any better. But Sale versus Mafra, Tarralgon rang me today, they're expecting a big crowd. Probably going to order an extra 3 dozen pies to cater for it, but there should be a lot of, the roads from Mafra and Sale should be very busy in the morning, all heading down to Tarralgon. Good local derby, and I think the fans will be in for a good hard tussle, because that's, no matter where they are in the home and away, they always play well and hard against each other. So I'm expecting a crackerjack game there as well.
Well, it certainly will be, and if you're talking about promoter's dream, the fact that it's a knockout semi-final, they're not playing the second semi-final or something like this. It's a season at stake. Logic suggests Sale should win. They nearly finished on top of the ladder. Mafra struggled into the 5, but Sale's efforts of the last 2 weeks have just been terrible, and really for a side that was gunning for a premiership, you don't win a premiership the way they've gone the last 2 weeks. The emails were flowing to me from sort of Sunday night and Monday, get your money on Mafra for the flag. So they're never short of confidence of Mafra. And despite the logic, I just think they're into it. Sale have won both games this year against Mafra, but Mafra had 30 scoring shots to about 21 and lost the second encounter by 10 points, I think it was. But I just think they're coming, and they're probably, for the first time in a decade, been underrated. And the form last week against the League was good. It'll be an interesting test this one. It'll be a big game. I think the other side that is Druin and Tarralgon, would like to see Mafra get beaten, But
Yeah.
from what I've seen of Sale, I don't think that's going to happen. They just don't seem to be a team unit to me. They didn't play with passion. They didn't play with anything. I don't think you discover that in 5 or 6 days.
Well, if anybody watches this from Sale, I'm sure you've given them the needle to come out fighting this Sunday. So we'll see what actually happens. But look, you're right. I mean, with Mafra now, and the coach made a point of saying after the game that, you know, they'll be weary of him, and he believes Mafra's ready for him. So the thing about it is, we know, you know, when you look at it, the cold hard facts, you can't sort of see Mafra being that good. But the thing is, they've been doing it for 10 years, very experienced unit. And one of the main things at the Mafra Footy Club is that as the players they bring up, they're all coached the same way, so they just slot into their position and play the same game of brand of footy that all the others are. So, I mean, I know that with Sale, they've got a long injury list, but they copped a couple extra on Saturday. We don't know how bad they are, but I think they told me it was around about 13 injured players they've got at the moment.
Yeah.
So in total.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that Mafra's probably on track to actually knock them off, and I'll go with you. I think that Mafra will win this, and they'll be playing either Terrelton or during the following week.
Yeah, I just think Sale, apart from injuries and maybe, I know they've had lots of changes to their side week in, week out, but I just saw a lack of spark. If you look at their performance last week, after the first quarter they kicked 5 goals, and the full-back kicked 2 and the centre-half back kicked 2 as they tried to shift them down. The forwards were, just not in it. Ferguson didn't get a goal for the second week in a row. Fowler, I think, got near the ball, and the small guys didn't.
Well, you're trying your hardest to get them up there, aren't you?
No, I'm just saying I was grossly disappointed in a side that for a fair while of the season looked as if they were the premiership favourites.
I actually lost $20 to you, thinking that they would go through unbeaten. But look, it's another week, and I'm sure the Black and White Army up there they'll be working very hard this week, and I'm sure they'll be down in force to support against their local. I think some people still call Mafra the village, but Mafra's more than a village now when they get on a footy ground. They know how to play footy. But anyway, great weekend coming up, and we'll see you next week anyway, because I think we're going over time. The production manager's waving his fist around at us, so we better call it quits, and we'll see you next week.